Let's see if we can use one versatile mop brush and paint a beautiful Christmas poinsettia. I will be also using a palette knife, but that's it. My name's Annika. I've received a brand new Polina Bright mop brush for Christmas and I'm excited to unbox it with you and show you how to start up with a new brush. While we're painting the poinsettia, we'll be going through several techniques and some really cool tricks. So stay tuned for those and let's see what we end up with. First thing to do is to remove the plastic and to discard it, because there's no point in putting it back onto the brush because you may never get it back on and you'll only wreck the bristles. So now we need to wash the brush because it's very stiff. It's protected with gum arabic. This is to maintain the beautiful shape of the brush and so that it doesn't get damaged in shipping. All we've got to do now is wash it in water. If it's still very stiff, just one little firm press against the belly and voila, it's absolutely divine. Look at that. Look at the beautiful tip and the springiness in the brush. I'll be painting a spontaneous Christmas poinsettia, all with the one brush. It's a fairly big brush and we've got lots of different marks within the flower. So let's see how we go. I'm starting by mixing a few vibrant reds in my palette. There's a quinacridone coral, a quinacridone red and a pyrrole orange, and some nickel titanate yellow for the center little buds. There's plenty of paint on my brush and I love that because you just don't run out. I've now dipped my paint brush into the quinacridone coral and as I've touched the paper into the little yellow buds in the middle. This is spread the paint and then some quinacridone red to liven it up. As I touch the center little yellow bit, I touch it with the point of the brush, and then for the wider part of the petal or leaf, I press down on the belly, and you can just wiggle your brush around and create lovely shapes of leaves. I can't tell you how exciting it is for a brush to be able to make very wide strokes, very thin strokes, points, and always come back to its original shape. If you're a lover of watercolor, at some point you really need to treat yourself to a decent brush. These brushes are exceptional quality, and check out the link in the description and see for yourself what you can find, or maybe something else, but it's really worth having a decent brush. I'm now adding some deeper, stronger quinacridone red around the center and along some of the petals, providing interest and depth. Now for something fun. I'm going to wash my brush and gently just tap off excess water, but still keeping a lot of water in the brush, making a few watery strokes along the petals. This will lighten them as time goes on. As it dries, they'll become lighter still. Now for part 2 of this, where the dark bits are, I'm using my palette knife to scrape in a few lines. And what this will do is because it's very wet, the pigment will run into those lines and make those lines darker. If we were to scrape into nearly dry paint, it would be white, like in some areas. So there'll be some lighter areas, lighter strokes, and some will be darker, but I like that. It's really good for this particular flower. Just here, it's too wet, so nothing's happening. Every time I scrape something out, I then wipe my palette knife on the paper towel to make it clean and then do another swipe. When scraping with either a point or a palette knife or a card, you do need to practice so that you get used to how wet the paper needs to be. It does need to be very moist, but not sopping wet. So I'm scratching in another vein. Now the wetness of the paper, it's still got a sheen on it, a satiny type of sheen. It's not too wet, but it's not too dry either. At this stage, I'm able to, with the side of my palette knife, scrape in a few of the fresher leaves. Because the red on the paper is quite dramatic, I'm picking up some of the wetter bits with my wet brush and blending them into the background. This is so that when I put the green leaves there, it'll all intermingle together. Adding a little bit of splatter for some Christmas cheer. For the greens, I'm using some sap green and some jadeite green. The jadeite is a very, very rich dark green, and I think they're going to blend in beautifully. I'm purposely painting the leaves a lot looser and a lot less complete than the petals, just for some balance. I might have mentioned earlier it's a spontaneous poinsettia, so there's been no overthinking, and it's just a complete joy using this new paintbrush and just seeing what will happen with a random poinsettia. Whilst painting the leaves, some of them have been wet on dry, but in some areas, like this next one coming up, I have wet the paper first. There we go, wet the paper first and then drop in some colour, which spreads out really nicely and softly, and just add a few strokes here and there. I love that jadeite green, it's so dramatic. The flower at this stage is dry. I'm taking some of the green, a very light wash of it, and putting it over the red, creating these deeper shadows. It's amazing how beautifully vibrant watercolour can be. I just absolutely love the medium. I'm creating some dark veins along the very light leaves. And see this little tip here, when you pull the background into the foreground, it just really makes it. A little bit of fussing in the center, and then we'll come in with the palette knife onto the leaves. The palette knife is such an awesome tool. I love those highlights it makes. And now, was it worth having a new brush? Yes, absolutely. I just absolutely love it. I got it for Christmas from my daughter, but if I had to buy my own present, I would buy it for myself. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.